My boss fired me to hire his nephew, then begged me back when the company collapsed. I worked as a project manager at a mid-sized marketing firm for 5 years. My role involved overseeing client campaigns, managing budgets, and keeping a team of 8 people on track. I wasn't perfect, but I was good at my job. Clients gave positive feedback, and our campaigns consistently hit or exceeded targets. My boss, the company owner, seemed to trust me. He'd often say I was the glue holding things together. That trust vanished when he decided to fire me to make room for his nephew. The company was doing well, pulling in steady revenue from long-term clients. I'd just closed a big contract with a new client, which took months of late nights and revisions. One morning, my boss called me into his office. He didn't look me in the eye, just said they needed to restructure, and my position was no longer needed. No warning, no performance issues, just a quick handshake and a severance check. I later found out his nephew, fresh out of college with zero experience, was taking my spot. The guy had a marketing degree but hadn't even managed a lemonade stand. I was stunned, but I packed my stuff and left without making a scene. For the next few weeks, I focused on finding new work. I updated my resume, reached out to contacts, and lined up a few interviews. Meanwhile, I heard through old coworkers that things at the company were starting to slip. The nephew struggled to keep up. He missed deadlines, mixed up client priorities, and didn't know how to handle the team. Clients started noticing mistakes in campaigns. Wrong data, sloppy presentations, basic stuff I'd always caught. I wasn't surprised, but I was too busy moving on to care much. Then, 3 months after I was let go, my phone rang. It was my old boss. His voice sounded shaky, not like the confident guy I used to know. He said the company was in trouble. Big trouble. They'd lost 2 major clients and another was threatening to pull out. He admitted the nephew couldn't handle the role and asked if I'd consider coming back. He didn't say sorry or admit he'd made a mistake, but the desperation was clear. I didn't give him an answer right away. I needed time to think. After my old boss called, I sat on his offer for a couple of days. Part of me wanted to tell him to figure it out himself. He'd made his choice when he picked his nephew over me. But I couldn't ignore the fact that I'd built a lot at that company. The clients, the team, the systems we used. I'd put years into making it all work. Plus, I hadn't landed a new job yet, and the severance was running thin. I decided to hear him out. We met at a coffee shop near the office. He looked worn out, like he hadn't slept in weeks. He explained how things had gone downhill fast. The nephew's mistakes piled up. Campaigns launched with typos, budgets miscalculated, and one client even got sent the wrong proposal. My old team was frustrated, working overtime to fix errors, but morale was low. Another major client had just walked, and the company's revenue was tanking. He offered me my old job back. Same title, same pay, no mention of a raise or apology. He said they needed someone who could fix things fast. I asked what would happen to his nephew. He mumbled something about moving him to a less critical role. That didn't sit right with me. It sounded like the nephew would still be around, probably causing more problems. I also wasn't thrilled about walking back into a mess I didn't create, especially without any acknowledgement of how I'd been pushed out. But the more he talked, the clearer it became. The company was on the brink. Without someone to stabilize things, it might not survive another month. I told him I'd think about it and give him an answer by the end of the week. Driving home, I weighed my options. Going back could mean saving a sinking ship, but it also meant dealing with the same boss who'd burned me. I started reaching out to my old coworkers to get the full picture. They confirmed the chaos, missed deadlines, angry clients, and a team ready to quit. One of them told me the nephew had been promoted to my role without even an interview, which stung. I also checked in with a few industry contacts to see if other job leads were still warm. I wasn't about to jump back into a bad situation without a plan. Update 1. By the time I was mulling over my boss's offer, I'd done some digging into what else had gone wrong at the company. A former coworker told me the nephew had tried to innovate by pushing a new software tool nobody was trained on, which led to a week of crashed systems and delayed projects. Another client, one I'd personally brought on board, had started looking for other agencies because of repeated errors in their campaign reports. The team was stretched thin, with 2 people already putting in their notice. I also learned my boss had tried to fix things by hiring a consultant before calling me. The consultant charged a fortune but left after a month, saying the problems were structural. Apparently, the nephew was still showing up late, missing meetings, and acting like he deserved the role. My boss was too stubborn to fire him outright, which made me question if going back would even work. Meanwhile, I'd gotten a job offer from a smaller firm. The pay was slightly lower, but the role was similar and the company had a solid reputation. I was tempted to take it and wash my hands of my old workplace. But part of me still felt tied to the team I'd left behind. They were good people stuck in a bad spot. I decided to meet my boss one more time to see if he'd offer better terms, like a raise or more authority to fix the mess. I wasn't holding my breath, but I wanted to see how far he'd go to save his company. I met my boss again, this time at the office. The place looked rough. Empty coffee cups on desks, papers scattered, and a tense vibe in the air. He was more direct this time, admitting the company was losing money fast and might not make payroll next month. He offered me a small raise to come back, but still no apology. He said the nephew would move to a support role under me, which sounded like a recipe for trouble. I pushed back, asking for more control over decisions and a guarantee the nephew wouldn't interfere. He hesitated but agreed, saying he'd do whatever it took to keep the business alive. I took the weekend to think it over. The new job offer from the smaller firm was still on the table, and I liked the idea of a fresh start. But my old team kept texting me, saying they were counting on me to fix things. I felt torn, loyalty to them versus starting over somewhere else. I also wasn't sure I could trust my boss to keep his word about the nephew. I'd heard from a coworker that the nephew was still acting like he ran the place even after the demotion talk. In the end, I decided to take the job at the smaller firm. I called my boss and told him I wasn't coming back. He tried to argue, offering a bigger raise, but I held firm. I didn't want to walk into a situation where I'd be cleaning up someone else's mess while fighting office politics. The new job wasn't perfect, but it felt like a chance to work somewhere stable, with people who valued me from the start. A month later, I heard the company lost another client and was laying off staff. My old team was okay, though. Most of them found new jobs. The nephew, last I heard, was still there, but the company was barely hanging on. If I was in a situation where I got pushed out of a job unfairly, I'd focus on protecting myself early. I'd keep a record of my work, emails, project results, client feedback, anything that shows what I've done. It's proof of your value if you need to negotiate or look for something else. I'd also make a habit of staying in touch with people in my industry, even when things are going fine. Knowing who's hiring or who can vouch for you is a lifeline if your job goes sideways. If I had to choose between going back to a company that let me go or starting somewhere new, I'd lean toward the fresh start unless the old place offered something concrete, like a better role or clear changes in how things are run. I wouldn't go back just because they're desperate. You have to ask, are they valuing me or are they just out of options? I'd also make sure I had other job leads lined up before deciding anything. It's about having choices so you're not stuck. In any messy work situation, I'd take a step back and think about what I'm getting out of it. Is the stress worth the paycheck? Can I actually fix things, or am I just holding things together for someone else's bad decisions? If you're ever in a spot like that, keep your skills updated and your network active. It's the best way to make sure you're not at the mercy of someone else's choices.